Thanks for the opportunity to speak and explain to you a bit our approach in Cargill about sustainability for our animal supply chains. Normally, my colleague Gurneesh Bandahl, who has been leading sustainability in beef in North America, should have been standing here and doing the presentation to you, but sadly, she had a bereavement in her family, so he can't make it. So that's why I'm here before you. My specialty, as Nicole said, is really poultry. So I'm not, unlike you, a real subject matter expert on beef. But it has been very interesting for me to really participate and listen to the presentations. There's a lot of commonality between poultry and beef in terms of the challenges that you have. But it has been really great to see the progress that you all have been making with the roundtables. As Keith was saying earlier this morning, it's only in 2011 that the first initiative started. And now I hear there's roundtables in almost every country, which is really, really fantastic. Great example for poultry. But anyway, so I'd like to explain you a bit how we are approaching sustainability as Cargill. For us, we have defined 5 focus areas that all of the businesses in Cargill worldwide are focusing on. And not a big surprise, these focus areas are climate change, land use, water resources, farmer prosperity and farmer livelihoods, and since recently also food waste. Now that's mandatory, all businesses focus on that, but different divisions have the option to add other elements to those focus areas. And not a surprise for our animal protein business, the ones that we have added is animal welfare and antimicrobial stewardship that are clearly very, very important for animal supply chains. So what are we doing in our beef business for sustainability? We're splitting our activities really in 3 parts. The first one is really to make sure that we are doing a good job in our own activities, in our operations, the things that we control. Secondly, is really engaging with the beef value chain. So that's in the destination side, that's with customers, partner customers, like McDonalds is a fantastic example, but also at the origin with feed yards and ranchers, in order to make sure that we work together, as you all are doing, to make progress in the areas that you cannot fully control just by yourself. And the third one is about communication, is really sharing the information, the progress in complete transparency with the stakeholders, and in particular with the consumers. So when it comes to the first point, making progress in our own operations, at the beginning of this year, as Cargill, we made a commitment to limit the greenhouse gas we generate, our emissions from our operations, 10% by 2025. Now, that's a science-based target. That is an absolute target. That also means that even if we have organic growth, we grow our operations, our business, that doesn't change the absolute target of greenhouse gas that we have to stick by 2025. So you can imagine, as we have ambitious growth plans over the next 7 years, that means that we also need to be very, very aggressive in achieving reductions in our greenhouse gas emissions. When it comes to working together with the supply chain, clearly antimicrobial stewardship is a very important topic for us. In the US, we have implemented now a policy to phase out in our cattle supply chains all of the shared class antibiotics. That's the antibiotics that are both used in human medicine as well as in animal medicine. That is very important. Consumers do not understand antibiotics very well, and the potential risks of antibiotics. And I think that we as an industry really have a job to do in order to explain that. What is very important for us is that when you reduce antibiotics, you do that in a measured, controlled way. What you don't want is to take any risk in terms of the welfare of the animals that we have in our care. So it's important that you don't do that very, very brusquely and aggressively, but you do it carefully so that the animals absolutely are continue to be protected. Other example of some of the good practices we've been working on is our beef quality assurance program. So 90% of the cattle at the moment that we source have been sourced from feed yards where all of the operatives have been trained in correct animal welfare handling practices, but also optimal antibiotic use. We continue that program that has been supported also with the NCBA, with a next module that is now about to be launched, but that also includes the transport of animals, also very important. Then in terms of the communication, all of the good work that we're doing, it only has value if you can transmit the impact of that to the people who at the end have to make their decisions about your supply chain. So it's difficult in general to do that, as we note from the times when we have the opportunity to receive visitors to our farms, to our supply chains. Generally, without exception, visitors tend to be very impressed when they have an opportunity to visit a farm, a feed yard, to speak with the farmer. And unfortunately, in practice, it's difficult to do that at a large scale. So that's why we're trying to use modern technology now to give consumers and other stakeholders the opportunity to sort of live the experience. It can never be 100% the same as really being in the farm, but things like virtual reality, or you see here an example, there's a website, when you get the presentation later on, you can click on the link, and then I invite you to take a tour. This will allow you to really drill down, see where the maps are, where the farms are. When you zoom in, you get pictures of the farms, of the people even, short interviews. So it allows you to really discover what the reality of the supply chain is like. Another example is really a Feedyard Sustainability program that focuses on animal care, environmental stewardship, employees, and communities. And I would like to show you a short 2-minute video that explains a little bit more how we approach that.
The Cattle Feedyard Sustainability Program is a groundbreaking analysis that focuses on our partner feedyard operations, where they actually track and measure a set of key sustainability metrics, indicators. Cargill is uniquely positioned to make a real difference in this space. Our customers have their own customers that expect them to take care of the supply chain, and by providing this type of information, it really increases trust throughout the whole chain.
Sustainability is really core to what we do at Cargill. And we know that the world craves meat more than ever, so we need to continue to look for ways to bring meat to the market more sustainably. Many people may not know that feed yards are a vital part of the sustainable supply chain. We source from more than 5,000 feed yards, many of which are family or independently owned, and our supply chain has really established a sense of trust with them, and that's important to advance sustainability. We've identified 4 pillars that are most important to our customers, to consumers, and to feed yards: animal welfare, environmental stewardship, communities and workers, and then economics. All of our programs in sustainability have to make sense for the farmer's bottom line. We're giving tools and resources to help feed yards track key sustainability indicators, and we're incorporating best practices to help drive sustainability in feed yards. I I get really excited about the advancements that feed yards are making in sustainability, especially around water conservation and greenhouse gas emissions. One of the ways that feed yards can improve their greenhouse gas emissions is through manure management.
I would say one of the improvements we've made at our facility that we've done for several years now is we compost all of our manure at the feedlot. So all of our manure is composted, cleaned out of our pens, and then used for local farmers in our area. As a feed yard manager, sustainability means to me understanding our resources and where we have our opportunities at within those resources. Basically figuring out the scale of what we use and where our opportunities are to reduce those and or make improvements.
We're doing the right things as a supplier, and it's really in line with our strategy going forward. Our goal is to feed the world sustainably, and we're going to do everything we can do in our power to do that.
So that was a quick introduction into how we approach sustainability. We are, as Cargill, very, very proud that we have been able to participate in the beginning of the Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. We're also very proud that actually in Canada, we have been the first to really bring sustainable beef to market. So I'd like to hand over to Deborah Wilson, who is the Senior Vice President of the company Business Information Exchange Systems, if I'm saying that right. And she's going to share with you more the technical of how we have designed a system that allows, in the end, the farmers to get the benefit from the added value that sustainable cattle can bring to them.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Is everybody awake? Or I see some eyes starting to kind of nod shut a little bit. So just to start off, I'd like everybody that has participated in the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef on any of the committees or in any way serving on the council, could you all just stand? Because for me to stand up here and see these individuals that have put in time at all these hours and hours, we have our chair, we have some of our producers here. So thank you very much. So it's really great to see them here supporting the initiative. So I am Senior Vice President, and I also sit on the National Council for the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. And my company is a tracking company, traceability company. So we track the live animals up to the point of harvest. We can attach many different attributes to the animals through the system to support this sustainability initiative. So the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, we know that Cargill is a founding member, and we have a number of affiliated roundtables that we've shared information with. And Cargill's been actively involved in both the US and in Canada, really contributing to everything. You didn't stand up. There's one of our, what's your official title with the GRSB? So this is the girl that makes it, tells us, no, you can't cut corners there, you can't do this here, you've got to do this way. So she keeps us all on the straight and narrow. So the Canadian Beef Sustainability Acceleration Pilot, it's an initiative led by Cargill, Verified Beef Production Plus, which for the Americans is like your BQA program. We've adopted a few more pieces into our VBP program to make it the Plus program. And then my company, the Beef Information Exchange. To facilitate this, we have an API in BIX, and VBP has built a data management system that tracks all of the producers that have been audited. And through the API, we are able to take the cattle that move out of those audited operations, attach that certified sustainable beef tag on that animal, and it travels with the animal through its lifetime. So our Canadian beef sustainability timeline. So about 2014, McDonald's, I think, was when they went out and made the statement that they were going to start sourcing from sustainable operations by 2016. So that's how long I've known Jeff. He's been tromping around up in Canada. So that pilot project, we launched it in 2014. And we made a lot of miles on the road talking to producers. And we eventually got 121 farms and ranches and feedlots involved. We tracked the final count at the end of the whole pilot project, and Emily Murray says we're all going to go get tattoos that says 8,967 head through a fully verified sustainable chain. That's not all the cattle that were in the chain. There was about 50 to 60,000 head that went through the chain, but they fell out of the chain of custody because they weren't certified sustainable. So they can move. There was a number of different permutations that the cattle could come to, but they had to always be in a certified sustainable operation. So at the same time while that's going on, the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef was starting. They were starting to pick up steam. Once the McDonald's pilot project wrapped, they turned over their learnings from the pilot project to the CRSB. We were lucky enough to have Jeff Fitzpatrick-Stillwell, Sustainability Manager for McDonald's, and Gurneesh Bandahl, Sustainability Manager with Cargill, be able to come work with us on the indicator committees. Tim Hardman was heavily involved in the indicator committees. Then we went from there. At the same time the indicator committees were finalizing things, we started into the verification committee. How were we going to verify and audit these operations? And again, and Leon made a good point, which I missed earlier in my earlier presentation, is when our producers are audited, it's not a pass or a fail. It's a scale. There are a few things that make it a barrier to entry into the sustainability initiative, but very few. You're scored on a 1 to 5. Very few, if any, producers get a 5, because the goal is to always strive for progress, to become better at what you do. Every year you want to strive on your operation to learn how to make things better. So the CRSB verification assurance protocol went through. We got that approved. All of those were out for public comment twice. Then we established our CRSB, CSB, Canadian Certified or Sustainable Beef Framework, which we launched, the producer framework, last December. God, it just, the time goes by so fast. And that was an exciting time for us. So at about the time that we launched that framework, we partnered VBP Plus, Cargill, and ourselves to move forward with this Canadian Beef Sustainability Acceleration Pilot Project. So here's our Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. You can see the standards. I've talked a little bit, spoke a little bit to them, not just for producers, but also for processing. Assurance protocols, so that was covering off what did our auditors look like, what did we need them to be like, what did we need them to do when they went on to the farm. And one of the things we identified very early on was to set the producers up for success. So there's a training module, and that was critical to us to have the producers understand what they had to do to be successful when the day came for their audit. So it's providing guidance and requirements for the certification process. Chain of custody requirements, then, and I want everybody to understand that in this pilot project, nobody gets a free pass. Every single person, organization in the pilot is audited, including my own company. Cargill's audited. We're all audited to make sure we're working to the standards. And then the sustainability claims. So that was a marketing communications committee. What were the retailers going to be able to say? What could the producers say about themselves once they've been audited? It all started to come together, and we drove forward. We were at the same time driving forward on this pilot project. So it was to develop and deliver a credible, assured supply of sustainable beef. And we wanted to work with participating customers that align with our beliefs, and we wanted to test the CRSB framework. And of course, the goal for the retailers is to realize a competitive advantage in the marketplace for supporting this initiative. So the current pilot customers are, of course, McDonald's, and I'm very proud to say that I think Canada is the only country in the world that gets to have that little red maple leaf, isn't it? I'm not sure why we're that privileged, but that's the only place McDonald's allows any kind of variance on their logo. Recipe, who was formerly Cara Foods, which runs a number of restaurant chains, They also are supporting the initiative, and Loblaws, it's one of our largest grocery retailers. And recently, Cactus Club Cafe, which is a chain across Canada, has joined the initiative as well. And the nice thing about all of these retailers is we see their support also at the GRSB. They send their staff. They provide us with marketing information to help us understand what we need to deliver. So this is how the pilot works. And you can see up there, we've got the ranches, the feedlots, the packers. It's not a simple industry. I've sat down and talked to some individuals who think it'd be really easy to do traceability in the cattle industry. But when the average move of the animals is 3.2 to 3.4 times in their lifetime, to have them hit a certified sustainable operation all the way along the way is a challenge. So then the packers are audited, then we arrive with verified sustainable beef. So that goes down and that is distributed back to the retailers. And then as you see when you move down, you can say the Canadian Beef Sustainability Acceleration Pilot. Down there, the clearinghouse, which in this case our company is acting as the clearinghouse, which funnels funds back to the producers for participating in the pilot. I'll just give you some results that we've achieved so far. In the first quarter, October 1 to June 30th, we paid out to producers on animals that move through a fully verified, certified sustainable chain, $10 per head per operation. So if the animal was only ever in one operation, that operation would get $10 per head. If the animal moved 3 times and was in 3 operations, each of those operations got $10 a head. Second quarter, we paid out $20.11 a head, and I'm going to explain a little bit how we arrive at those numbers. Third quarter was $18.52 a head, and the fourth quarter we just closed out recently. We ran some numbers a week or 2 early just to kind of get a sense of where we were, and our numbers were up again in that fourth quarter. So I'm happy to say that I think by the time we finalize the numbers for year 1, we could be looking at about 3.5 million pounds of certified sustainable beef delivered to our retailers. The amount of the credit, and this is a quote directly from Cargill, the amount of the credit per head in each quarter is based on the total number of qualifying head in the program. Qualifying head means they move through a fully sustainable chain. Then it's based on the average cattle weights and the number of participating retailers. And we arrive at that pot, the CBSA clearinghouse, and it's divvied up between the producers that contributed. I think it's really helped, it's helped to deliver the message to the producers that yes, you pay for an audit, but we're recognizing all the great things you're doing. And the other thing it does, it's peer-to-peer discussion. Your neighbor gets audited. He tells you it really wasn't that bad. The auditor came on. It's like having somebody come to visit. And the auditor says things like, show me how you manage your grass. Tell me about how you handle that water. So what do you usually do with your manure? And remember that we've trained all these producers so they understand the records they need to keep and what the issues they have to be addressing. So we see this now. We see that this in McDonald's restaurants across Canada. We see the commercials already on TV. It came out, what date, Jeff? 28th of August? That we were able to see our certified sustainable beef logo. It's also on some of the McDonald's packaging. And I mean, every time I see this, it just makes me think of the 3.5, 4 years of sitting in boardrooms and hashing it out with NGOs and animal rights groups and environmental groups, producer groups, all of us learning from one another and learning that we can find common ground when we want to achieve something like this. What makes me really happy is when I'm sitting on the plane and somebody says, and what do you do for a living? And I used to kind of cringe about explaining traceability. Now I say, you know what? I work in sustainability. My company tracks the animals through the sustainable operations. It leads to a whole conversation with people that I wouldn't otherwise talk to, and I'm able to talk to them about the great things the beef industry is doing. So my wrap up is, thoughts I'm going to leave you with is people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And why are we doing this? We're doing this to make the world a better place. I have children that are ranching. Nothing made me happier than when my daughter called me and said, "We passed our audit, Mom," and she's so proud of herself. So now she'll share that with all of her contemporaries in her age bracket. What is this all about? It's about the planet. It's about the people. It's about the animals. And it's about progress. So thank you very much for your attention and for the opportunity to tell you about our great project in Canada.